Hi Stampers, this is Susan Petty Baylor. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the United States, and today I wanted to share a technique with you called Joseph's Coat. Joseph's Coat is a relatively simple technique, albeit just a little bit messy. You need a few supplies. You need Whisper White cardstock. My preference is the thick Whisper White, but the regular Whisper White and the shimmery Whisper White would also work. You want 3 colors of ink, and my preference for this project are ink colors that are deep, rich, and bold. You need an ink blending tool. Again, my preference is the sponge daubers, but you can use whatever you prefer. You need VersaMark ink. You need clear embossing powder, a heat embossing tool. For this technique, I think medium size, solid image stamps tend to work the best. For this particular project, I used the Forever Fern stamp set. It has several different fern leafy images that I was able to mix and match, and that seemed to work fairly well. But you can use whatever solid image, medium-sized stamps that you find would work well. You don't necessarily have to do a lot of different stamps. It can be the same image repeated over and over. And lastly, a microfiber cloth. In this video, I couldn't find my microfiber cloth, so I used paper towel. And it works in a pinch, but I promise the microfiber towel works better. Once you have those 3 base colors, you need a 4th dark background color. And typically when I've seen Joseph's Coat projects, that's a tongue twister, Joseph's Coat. When I've seen those projects in the past, the background colors tend to be black, but there's some beautiful dark colors that you could use in the background. And for this project, I did do several cards with using the black background, but I also used early Espresso, which is a deep dark brown, and I used shaded Spruce, which is a dark green, and I'm really pleased with the results, and I think you'll like them as well. So let's head over to my stamp table and let's get started with Joseph's Coat. Again, this is the Forever Fern stamp set. So I've positioned the stamps the way I want them. I'm going to close the door on the stamps and open it back up again. And I'm going to take my embossing buddy. If you've got an embossing buddy, this is the time to use it. It helps keep any kind of stray bits of embossing powder from sticking to wherever you've touched it. Helps to cut down on static electricity. All right, so I've inked those up really well with VersaMark. That's that clear, sticky embossing ink. I'm going to give that a good press. Make sure that it gets inked up really well. I've got clear embossing powder here. I want to make sure that's got good coverage. Give it a little tap. Not sure if you can see that. And I'm going to heat set that. Let me show you the other backgrounds I have. This one is Fleur de Flamingo, Melon Mambo, and Mango Melody. And this one is Real Red, Highland Heather, and Crushed Curry. And I know these all look like a hot mess right now, but I promise they're going to look really cool when I'm done. So I will be back. Okay, I've got the top half of all these pieces embossed with the same leaf stamps. I don't know if you can see those. And I'm going to set those aside. I'm going to flip this around. Okay, I've cleaned the VersaMark off of the stamps, and I want to try to get these stamps as close to what's already stamped as I can without overlapping. And I have them going off of the paper because I like the way that looks. It doesn't, I think if everything is just like all inside the edges, it looks unnatural. So I think we're good with the placement on those stamps. I've got one left over. I'll set that aside. I'm going to close the door on those stamps and pick them up. Use my embossing buddy again. Stamping and putting embossing powder on the cards, and then do all of the heat embossing at the end. I'm only taking probably a total of 2 or 3 minutes to do all the stamping. And once the embossing powder is stuck to the VersaMark ink, you usually have a little bit of grace period. That's the nice thing about VersaMark, that's what makes it such a great ink for embossing. It's a sticky, almost like a glue kind of an ink that stays sticky for a while. Here's another one. So again, these were all sponged yesterday. Just sponged on all the color in random patterns. There is absolutely no rhyme or reason to how I stamped or how I put down the color. I just wanted very dark ink, heavy inking, and some pretty bright colors so that there was some good contrast after the final step, which you will see shortly. All right, last one. This is the Flamingo, Mango Melody, and Melon Mambo. And actually, you know, when you're embossing, it's always good to have your heat tool nice and hot. And when you're doing multiple pieces at one time, you don't have to take time to wait for your heat tool to get good and hot. Once it's hot for the first embossing, it's hot for the other ones. I think we've got those all embossed. You can see how shiny that is. Okay, I put away the Stamparatus, cleaned up my stamps. So your classic Joseph's coat is done with black ink. What did I do with my paper towel. So I'm going to drag this all over the top. The best thing to use is a microfiber cloth, and I can't find mine. Story of my life. So I'm going to use a paper towel, and I'm going to buff off the excess black from where I embossed. And you get this really cool resist. So all those kind of wacky colors come through. You can see there's some around the edges that I didn't get inked very well. So maybe I will trim this down when I go to put that together. So that's the first one. And that was Daffodil Delight, Cajun Craze, and Blackberry Bliss. And I love all these different colors, and I especially love the yellow, the way that pops off the paper. So I'm going to set that one aside, let that dry. The next one is Poppy Parade, Pacific Point, and So Saffron. I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm thinking that over in here, maybe I did not get my embossing powder heated well enough. This is beautiful. I love these colors. Oh my gosh. Poppy Parade, Pacific Point, and So Saffron. Wow, that's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. I'll have to do a better job. Yeah, that's totally smooth there. I've rubbed away the embossing powder. So I'll have to do a better job getting everything well heated, and all the embossing powder melted super well. I love the way the yellow pops. This one also, I guess maybe that's something good to remember, is the bright colors really pop. And then over in here and around some of the edges, I did not do a good enough job of embossing, so I rubbed the embossing off. I'll have to trim this down. I'll put that one aside, and let's do this next. Real Red, Highland Heather, and Crushed Curry. Oh, that's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Real Red, Highland Heather, and Daffodil Delight. I like that combination too. So these are the classic Joseph Coat cards in that it's a black background. And I have one other that I did that I want to try. This is Fleur de Flamingo, Melon Mambo, and Mango Melody. And I'm going to try Shaded Spruce instead of the black and see how this works. Okay, you got a paper towel. Let's give this a good wipe. I think when I've done this in the past, I've used a microfiber cloth to wipe off the excess ink from the embossing, and I think that actually works better. But the paper towel is good in a pinch, so I'll just trim this off. Super pretty. Isn't that gorgeous? And I love with the distinctive stamps how all this veining, all this interesting background is coming through. Very cool. And then I'm going to clean this up, and I will be back to mount these cards and do a card front. Okay, so you saw the process of making all these backgrounds, and I wanted to show you what I came up with for cards. So this first one was crushed curry, real red, and Highland heather with black. And I used this thanks was well said. And I made, let's see, I stacked maybe probably about 3 or 4 die cuts all together to give it some depth. And then I covered the top die cut with this shimmery crystal effects. I just really liked the look of the shine on the card front, just I guess because of the gloss of the clear embossing powder. I did do a little bit of trimming around the edges to kind of clean it up a little bit. But that's one. And then we have this one, Poppy Parade, Pacific Point, and So Saffron. I used the So Saffron for card base, and I mounted the Joseph's Coat piece onto Poppy Parade. And then the Hello, this is a die cut from Simon Says Stamp. I wanted something kind of generic, and I did something similar to the thanks in that I cut several layers of actually So Saffron to give it a bit of a shadow. The final layer in Poppy Parade, and then again used the shimmery crystal effects. I actually used this on all of the greetings because, like I said, I liked the shimmer. This next one, Blackberry Bliss, Daffodil Delight, and Cajun Craze. So Blackberry Bliss was the card base, Daffodil Delight for the mat, and then again I did Daffodil Delight for the Hello die cuts stacked and covered with the shimmery crystal effects up. This one is the red is Mary Merlot, the pink is Rococo Rose, and this is Mint Macaron. And this is the one that I used early, Espresso on the background. Again, same thing with the die cuts. And this was I made this a top folding card. There was a lot that I was not happy with on this particular piece. I don't know oh, here's the other piece. I really didn't like the way the embossing turned out down in here, so you can see how I trimmed off that piece. I just really didn't like this messiness up here. And these last 2 cards, this was actually one piece. I just took the square and cut it diagonally, and then made these 2 cards. This was the background that I used, the shaded spruce. The pink is Flirty Flamingo. This darker pinky red is Melon Mambo. And the yellowy color is Mango Melody. And Mango Melody is what I did the greeting in, and it's mounted on Melon Mambo. But I really like these colors. I liked how it turned out, and I thought the cards came out really well. So these are the cards that I made. And this Hello die cut, that is an old retired Stampin' Up die cut. So those are the cards that I made with the Joseph's Coat technique. I hope you give it a try, and if you do, I would love to see the results. Happy stamping!